Morning everyone. I am Dr. Sushma Mishra, Assistant Professor of English at Government Pandit Shamacharan Shukla Mahavidyalaya, Tarsima. The topic of this lecture is A Prayer for My Daughter, written by W.B. Yeats. This poem was written by W.B. Yeats, William Butler Yeats, in the year 1919, soon after the birth of his eldest child, Annie, and it was published in the year 1921 in a volume entitled Michael Roberts and the Dancer. So this poem has 10 stanzas, and each stanza consists of 8 lines. Let's read stanza 1. Stanza 1. Once more the storm is howling, and half hid under this cradle hood and coverlid, my daughter sleeps on. My child sleeps on. There is no obstacle but Gregory's wood and one bare hill, whereby the haystack and the roof-leveling wind braid on the Atlantic, and be stayed, and for an hour I have walked and prayed because of the great gloom that is in my mind. This gloom, this unhappiness is maybe due to some personal problems which he was facing, or maybe due to the surroundings, maybe due to the great events like the First World War and the Irish Rebellion and the mess which was happening at that time. So the poet's daughter sleeps quietly in her cradle, half hidden under the cradle hood and the coverlid. Outside the storm is howling again. There are no barriers except Lady Gregory's wood and a bare hill, which can check the speed of the stormy wind coming from the Atlantic and pulling down haystacks and house roofs. Inside the poet's mind there also blows a storm of great gloom. Because of it he has walked and prayed for an hour or so. Second stanza. In the second stanza, the poet has walked and prayed for his infant daughter for about an hour. He has heard the Atlantic wind howl outside his house, in the tower, under the arches of the stream bridge, and also among the elms. Elms mean the variety of trees upon the hillside of the flooded stream. The storm has excited in him fear that the destructive future years have arrived at last, and they have come dancing to a maddening drumbeat as if out of the dangerous calm of the Atlantic. There is a word scream, and this word is deliberately used by the poet to suggest hysteria. In the next stanza, the third stanza, the poet prays that his daughter should be gifted with beauty, but not so much beauty as to make her proud and cruel. Women gifted with extraordinary beauty begin to regard beauty as a complete end in itself and forget that beauty should be conducive to the happiness of life. Proud of their beauty, they forget the natural kindness felt, and they fail to respond to the advances even of sincere lovers, and so ultimately fail to find a suitable life partner. This reference is towards Maud Gonne, who was very beautiful and who rejected its proposal, and then finally married a politician, Macbeth. In the fourth stanza, the poet is giving some more examples of beautiful women who ate some crazy salad and who made their life miserable by choosing the wrong life partner. He is giving the example of Helen and Venus in fourth stanza. In the fourth stanza, the poet says that beautiful women certainly eat something unusual which makes them proud and mad and miserable. Most of the beautiful women had been the cause of their unhappiness, and they behave foolishly. He is giving the example of Helen and Venus. In the fifth stanza, he prays that his daughter may she not be have should. In the fifth stanza, he says that in courtesy I would have her chiefly learn hearts are not had as a gift, but hearts are earned by those that are not entirely beautiful. At many that have played the fool, for beauty's very self has charm made wise, and many a poor man that has loved and thought himself beloved from a glad kindness cannot take his eyes. So in this stanza he is praising courtesy, good behavior, and he is telling that physical beauty is not the ultimate beauty. My daughter should not be physically very beautiful, but she should have good qualities. She should have virtues of kindness and courtesy. In the sixth stanza, he says, may she become a flourishing hidden tree that all her thoughts should be like lineage be. The poet then prays that his daughter's hidden soul may flourish like a tree, and that her thoughts may be as innocent and cheerful as the lineage notes. He also prays that her soul may have no business other than that of speaking words of courtesy and doing deeds of kindness to those around it. Out of her innocent and cheerful thoughts, she may not take a drink or start a quarrel except for the sake of fun. He also wishes her to love like a green laurel tree, having her roots in perpetual aristocratic tradition and courtesy. In the seventh stanza, he says, recently the poet's soul suffered much depression to see that people he had liked and the great beauty he had loved got only little happiness in life. And now he knows it well that to have in one's heart hatred for a person may well give rise to great suffering for one's soul. If there is no hatred in one's mind, threats and buffets of wind of misfortune can never disturb the composer of the soul. The eighth stanza, he says that the poet then said that to cherish some intellectual hatred is the worst fault in a person. Let the poet's daughter therefore consider strong opinions detestable things. He has seen the fate of most beautiful women belonging to a well-to-do family. Because of her strong opinions about herself and others' life and politics, she sacrificed her prosperity and all her good qualities appreciated by her quiet admirers for becoming an out-of-date revolutionary orator full of words in favor of violent action. Here is a reference of Morgan. In the ninth stanza, the poet says that when extreme dislike is driven away from the mind, the soul attains to its fundamental innocence. It also learns that it is the source of its own delight, satisfaction, and empty fears. It also experiences that its own sweet will is God's will. Having understood all this and having got rid of extreme dislike, she can always be happy, even though everybody looks at her in a bad tempered way and the wind of misfortune howls all around her, or every breast full of hatred for her burst out of ill will. In the last stanza, he says that the poet then prays to God that his daughter may be married to a bridegroom belonging to an aristocratic family ruled by custom and ceremony. Insolence and extreme dislike are the things sold in the common streets by the common people, but innocence and refined manners are born only in the aristocracy, having its roots in tradition and formal courtesy. Refinement is another name for prosperity and happiness, and aristocratic tradition is the source of success and honor. So, in this poem, we can see that the poet is praying for his daughter and he is enlisting all the good qualities of a good woman, and he is wishing that his daughter should have all the virtues, kindness and courtesy, and may she be granted with beauty but not so much of physical beauty. The poem, it has lots of symbols: lineage, laurel tree,